In January of 1959, a group of 10 young hikers set out from the Ural Polytechnic Institute on what was supposed to be a challenging but rewarding expedition into the northern Ural Mountains, located in the remote Sverdlovsk Oblast of the Soviet Union. These were not tourists or inexperienced adventurers. They were skilled students in their early 20s, used to difficult terrain and harsh weather. The group consisted of 8 men and 2 women. Their leader, Igor Dyatlov, was a well-respected student and mountaineer. They all had previous experience with winter expeditions, and they knew what they were doing. This journey would help them earn Grade 3 hiking certification, the highest level at the time in the USSR. It was supposed to be tough, but achievable. It was supposed to be safe, at least for people like them. Before they even reached the mountain pass that would later bear Dyatlov's name, one of them, Yuri Yudin, had to turn back due to illness. He was suffering from joint pain and felt unwell, and the group agreed he should return to Sverdlovsk. No one suspected it at the time, but Yuri Yudin would become the only one from the group to make it home. The remaining 9 carried on, unaware of what was waiting for them in the snowy wilderness. The group kept journals, took photographs, and even wrote humorous headlines for their evening newspaper, a tradition among Soviet student hikers to keep spirits high during expeditions. Their final entries showed no signs of fear. They were joking, talking about food, politics, and life. The last photo taken of the group showed them setting up their tent on the snowy slope of a mountain called Koletsayako. In the language of the local Mansi people, it means Mountain of the Dead. It was February 1st. After that, nothing. When the group failed to return by February 12th, as expected, there was no immediate concern. Weather often delayed these trips, but by February 20th, relatives and fellow students demanded a search. First, university volunteers went out. Then the army joined in. On February 26th, they found the tent. What they saw didn't make sense. The tent had been half buried in snow, partially collapsed, and worst of all, it had been cut open from the inside, as if someone or all of them had panicked and slashed their way out rather than using the flap, and left everything behind. Their shoes, jackets, backpacks, even food, still inside, uneaten, untouched. From there, the mystery only deepened. Footprints led away from the tent down the slope, heading toward a nearby forest. They weren't scattered. In panic, they were neat, single file. Most were barefoot or wearing only socks. Some had one shoe. These were people who knew the dangers of exposure, yet they had walked, not run, into the freezing cold with almost no clothing. Searchers followed the prints and found the first 2 bodies under a large cedar tree near the forest's edge. They were dressed only in underwear and lying side by side. The remains of a fire lay nearby. One of them had burned fingers, possibly from trying to stay warm. The tree's lower branches were broken up to several meters high, suggesting someone had climbed it, maybe to look for the tent, or maybe for something else. 3 more bodies were found between the cedar tree and the tent, spread out as if they had been trying to return. Igor Dyatlov was among them. They too had little clothing. One had a fractured skull, but it wasn't life-threatening. The rest showed no outward signs of trauma. They had simply frozen. They died in the snow, trying to find their way back. But that only accounted for 5. 2 months later, When the snow melted, the remaining 4 were found deeper in the woods, in a ravine. They were dressed in some of the others' clothes, possibly taken from those who had died earlier. But their injuries were unlike anything seen in a normal avalanche or exposure case. Ludmila Dubinina had broken ribs and was missing her tongue, eyes, and part of her lips. Semyon Zolotaryev had massive internal chest injuries, ribs crushed inward, yet no bruises outside. The trauma was likened to the force of a car crash. One body had a missing nose. One had signs of strange skin discoloration. Most disturbing of all, the scene showed no sign of a struggle. No claw marks, no blood, just broken bodies lying in unnatural positions, buried by the snow. Some of their clothes were found to be radioactive. This was not part of their equipment and had no explanation. The official Soviet investigation, after an enormous delay, ended with the vague and unsettling phrase, "They died due to an unknown compelling force." And that was it. Case closed. Families were left with silence. Reports were classified. Access was limited, and rumors began. Over the decades, dozens of theories have surfaced. The most common one, and the one officially favored by Russian authorities in more recent years, is the slab avalanche theory. This suggests that a small, delayed avalanche struck their tent while they were sleeping, causing them to panic and flee, only to die of exposure. But this theory struggles under basic facts. The slope they camped on was shallow. The tent was still standing, partially, not buried. Their footprints were still visible. No signs of crushing on the tent or immediate injuries. And they didn't. Run, they walked, calmly, in socks. Others suggest military involvement. The Ural region was known for weapons testing at the time. Some believe the group stumbled into an area they shouldn't have and were silenced, perhaps by a concussion grenade or a missile test. The injuries, the radiation, and the silence from authorities seem to support this idea. But there's no clear evidence. Nothing proven. Just scattered leads that were never followed. Another theory involves infrasound, sound waves so low they can't be heard, but can induce panic, nausea, and confusion. It's been suggested that wind passing through the mountain created these frequencies, causing the group to flee irrationally. But that doesn't explain internal injuries or why they didn't return once the fear passed. Still others talk about secret parachute mine tests, or chemical exposure, or rare weather phenomena. And of course, there are those who believe something more unusual happened, whether extraterrestrial or otherwise. Yet perhaps the most chilling explanation is the one that can't be explained. That whatever happened in that cold, remote place, it wasn't something people were meant to understand. The Dyatlov Pass Incident is not scary because of monsters or paranormal ideas. It's terrifying because 9 healthy, trained young people walked into a place and died in ways that defy every logical explanation. They left behind photos, journals, footprints, frozen bodies, but no real answers. Their last photo showed blurry light in the sky. Their last notes were cheerful. The tent was their only shelter. They had food, experience, maps. They knew what they were doing. But they still ran, not from something visible, but from something they couldn't explain. Something that scared them so badly, they cut open their own tent and walked barefoot into the dark dot. To this day, people still visit the site. The tent's location has been mapped, the bodies remembered. But the truth, what they saw, what they felt, why they never returned, is still lost in the snow. Every theory falls short. Every detail only deepens the mystery. The story of the Dyatlov Pass isn't just about 9 people who died. It's about how little we understand the world, even now, and how some places seem to hold secrets no one can solve.